Krystian Dziok, cybersport.pl, a z nami nitr0. Congrats on winning. First day is over. I have to ask you, did you expect that you're gonna play with IHC? I mean, no one expected them to beat Furia. Were you surprised?
Yeah, I mean, we're all surprised with that upset IHC versus Furia. I think I didn't really know much about IHC coming into this tournament, and because they really don't play too many international tournaments. And when I watch their demos, I'm like, they actually have really, really good aim, and their tactics are pretty good. They're pretty up to meta, like with what most teams are doing nowadays. So I was actually really impressed with how they play. I think they're a great team, and I would love to see them at more tournaments. But yeah, going back to what you said, like, we didn't figure out who we played until midnight last night, and then we found out that the seeding was like all kind of weird. Like, we were expecting to play complexity, so I was actually already starting to prepare complexity because just looking at like how the scores were going up until like the last match finished, and then they're like, oh yeah, like you're playing IHC, and I'm like, oh okay. So I don't know anything about these guys, so it took me like a very long time to do prep last night, and I had a pretty good read on what they were doing, what they like to do. So we were confident playing against them.
So it was a big surprise for you.
Yeah, it was definitely a surprise. I think even today they played pretty well versus us. I think maybe they got like kind of outplayed like macro-wise, and then on overpass came down to a lot of clutches. Well, I think we were winning like mainly all the clutches, and if you're winning all the clutches, then you're probably most likely gonna win the game, right? So.
Okay, so your form in last months is rising up. What have you changed before coming here?
Like me as a player?
Yeah.
Well, on Inferno, the first half at least, I was whiffing a lot of kills, and I was losing a little bit of confidence. But the T side, I felt a lot better coming into it, and I know that like a lot of times when I have a bad start, I tend to finish like pretty bad. But I had a pretty good round on T side that kind of just like got us all back into it, especially me, and yeah, it felt really good to have a round like that. That's so impactful.
First map was really crazy. I know it was IHC peak, but what you guys have done on a city side, IHC was doing a lot of opening kills.
Yeah, I think it's something to just look back at and see what we can do differently. I think if I were to look back into it, I would probably just maybe like take banana more, maybe try to set the op up there, and then maybe like have a better setup for their B pops. So their B pops are very strong on the map. So I think going back to like review it is going to be a lot. We're going to learn a lot from it.
So did you think at the beginning it's gonna be such a hard map?
Honestly, no. I feel like we've been practicing Inferno a lot, and we knew that they were going to pick Inferno because they only pick a couple maps, and Inferno is one of them. So going into it, we had a really good game plan, and so happened to be that we've been practicing the map a lot. So it was good for us. Good matchup.
So what did you change on the T side because you made a comeback?
The T side was we kind of change up the way we approach the map. That's something that's like really good about this team is we can play a map a specific way one day or one tournament, and then the next tournament we'll have a completely different play style. So I think it speaks for itself that like we're very adaptable, and we like to like change our play style so we're not as readable. And I think on Inferno, it's been a map forever, obviously. So we've been trying to figure out a different way to play it for most teams.
So did IHC surprise you with something?
Honestly, not really. I feel like when I watch their games, they kind of did the same stuff that I was watching, against like Furia, Pain, for example, and well, not Furia. Well, yeah, actually, yeah, Furia. But honestly, no, not really. They definitely threw in a couple curveballs, but it wasn't anything crazy.
So overpass started completely different. Did you know by the time what you could expect from your opponents?
Yeah, I think on going into overpass, we knew that we were going to have a really good T side, and we started off really strong, and then we started kind of dipping down a little bit, losing opening kills here and there, not trading properly, and ultimately at the end of the rounds that we weren't getting those opening kills, we were winning a lot of clutches, so it kind of worked out, and it's just a game of Counter-Strike.
So looking at the overpass, can we say that Inferno is not your map or IHC was so strong?
I think our Inferno is getting a lot better recently in the past couple of months compared to like last. Like, I think maybe around like August and September we had a really strong Inferno, one of the top 3 Infernos in the world, in my opinion. And then we kind of stopped practicing it, and then we stopped practicing as much as like we were before because teams weren't really playing it versus us. So we kind of fell off a little bit in that department, and then we went back to the map, revised it, and figured out our play style. So yeah, it's a good map for us right now.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you about your past. You were playing CS, you switched to Valorant, and you come back to CS. What was the reason behind that decision?
Well, it was circumstantial and situational because during like 2020, COVID was hitting, and my wife was pregnant, and I was trying to figure out what I should be doing. I don't want to, because there was a chance that I went to Europe and they locked the borders, and I'm there for like 3 months with a pregnant wife. So it's like life kind of hit me right there. So I was like, well, Valorant, like you don't really travel. Game's pretty fun. So ultimately, I decided to swap and try something new. And then I watched like the major and Counter-Strike a year and a half later, and I was like, I mean, Counter-Strike's like my home game. So I've been playing since like, I don't know, like 4 or 5. Like my brothers played and all that stuff. So ultimately, it was just where my passion was, and I feel like I have a good brain for Counter-Strike specifically, and I just enjoy the game more.
Was it hard to switch on to use abilities in Valorant?
Yeah, it was pretty hard. I mean, the mechanics were a little bit wonky. Like I still think they're a little bit wonky, but it's hard to find that like consistency. Whereas in Counter-Strike, you know all the spray patterns for all the guns, and you're not playing against like different agents, so you're just playing against like different utility. But at the same time, it's like in Counter-Strike, it's pretty hard to find consistency as well because of each team having a different play style. And I feel like this year is going to be a lot better for me as an individual because I feel like I'm fully caught up to everything now.
I'm gonna ask, what are the differences between playing tournaments in Valorant and CS?
It's not really much different, I would say. At least whenever I played, it was like a bunch of new players and new faces that I've never seen. So in my mind, I have to figure out how these guys play, how they like to play specific situations, what their play style is, all these different things. And then coming back to Counter-Strike, it was the same exact thing because there was a lot of new players, new faces and stuff, a bunch of younger talents coming up. So I had to like rewire my brain to comprehend all these new players and how they like to play. And as an IGL, it's really important to have.
So, why, in your opinion, NA scene is considered worse than European scene?
I think it's just a lack of players. Like there's not as much talent as there was in like the early 2015, 2016 days, and especially like the Brazilians. Like there's not like many mixed teams nowadays, so or like NA/Brazil teams mixed. So I think it's kind of just there's not as much of a player pool to choose from, and whereas like Valorant, most of the tier 2, tier 3 players swapped over to Valorant. So I think it's just like there's just less players to choose from, and maybe less structure which comes with like having less players, right?
Okay, that's all. Thank you very much and congrats on first win.